Blessings and namaste, everyone. I'm spiritualist, psychic, astrologer, and medium Sette. I thank you once again for offering me this opportunity to share with you my astrological and spiritual insights as we move into the month of July 2020. I'm sure most of us are aware we are in an eclipse season. Our next eclipse coming up, the third of three prominent eclipses on July 5th. First, let me begin by stating that we do continue to move through a Mercury retrograde phase. Mercury will remain retrograde until July 12th at 4:26 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And whenever I address a Mercury retrograde and it moving direct, I also do emphasize that the Mercury retrograde influences remain somewhat in effect until Mercury returns to the point along the zodiac where it moved retrograde, and that for this particular phase will be on July 26th. That time that we experience from when Mercury moves direct until it moves past that point, it's known as the shadow phase. I did create a Mercury retrograde video talking a little bit more about those influences, as well as what we potentially were experiencing during this specific Mercury retrograde period. I am endeavoring towards creating a video designed specifically for a dedicated Mercury retrograde phase, because remember, each Mercury retrograde phase moves through a specific sign, suggesting what we can experience and what we may embrace during that Mercury retrograde phase. Remember, all planetary phenomena does serve a greater purpose when we allow ourselves to recognize how to employ the energies properly so that we may receive the blessings of any astrological alignment, even when it may seem adverse. Remember, there's a silver lining under everything. We just need to allow ourselves to recognize how to receive the energy so that we can make the most of it. Doesn't mean that we won't experience challenges. Remember, in those challenges as well, those are opportunities for growth as well as creativity. Speaking of retrogrades, Saturn, our great teacher, is moving retrograde, and on July 1st it dips back into Capricorn. Saturn transited from Capricorn to Aquarius. Now, since it's retrograde, it will dip back into Capricorn. You see, wherever Saturn transit, whatever sign that it moves through, whatever sector of our chart Saturn transits, Saturn strengthens. Saturn brings us many opportunities to become very disciplined and determined. Many times individuals fear Saturn because it does create restrictions. However, those, what we may observe to be restrictions, they're not intended or designed to deny us of anything. In fact, those limitations which we're presented with, they're not really limitations. They offer us an opportunity to really just reflect and to step back. It's really, again, like anything else, how we interpret a certain experience. Saturn is also the planet of karma. Many of us don't recognize that Saturn brings us rewards for whatever efforts we have really dedicated in terms of achieving what we desire. Saturn will provide us with all the tools necessary for us to achieve all that we desire. If we experience what we may believe to be a restriction, it's really an opportunity to just kind of step back, go in, and reflect. Remember, Saturn is a great teacher. All the planets, all the signs serve a higher purpose when we allow ourselves to recognize how to employ the energy so that we may receive its blessings and its benefits. As Saturn transited the sign of Capricorn, that's the sign which represents our long-term goals, our career, our profession. I also connected with a greater purpose. So as Saturn was transiting Capricorn, we were being given an opportunity to really solidify the understanding of a great purpose, to set in motion all our intentions for long-term goals. We emphasize long-term goals because whatever Saturn solidifies and strengthens, it remains with us for a very, very long period of time. And since Capricorn is the sign right before Aquarius, Aquarius being the sign of awakenings, awareness, the highest good of all concerned, the humanitarian, when Saturn moves from Capricorn to Aquarius, all that we have created in terms of those long-term goals, and I'm keeping things very simple here, once it moves into Aquarius, all of that which we have set in motion will serve a greater purpose, will serve the highest good of all concerned. You see how the evolutionary process really comes together quite nicely through the signs of the zodiac when we really understand the greater purpose in all of this. So Saturn, as I said, will dip back into Capricorn, offering us another opportunity to reflect on what we were endeavoring towards as Saturn moved through Capricorn for the last 2 years. Saturn requires about 2 years, a little bit more so depending on its retrograde phase, to go through a sign. And when it returns to the sign that it moved out of during a retrograde phase as such, we are given the opportunity to reflect on the last 2 years, specifically here, the goals that we have set in motion, the long-term goals we were set in motion, all that we were endeavoring towards regarding our career, profession, whatever that might be. And Saturn will move direct on September 29th of 2020, when all of that should become a little bit more clear and come together for us. Now, we have our next eclipse, which is a full moon lunar eclipse on July 5th. The exact time is 12:44 a.m. That's Eastern Daylight Time. If you're in other time zones, such as Pacific Time, that will be on July 4th. And what's so significant about this eclipse is that it coincides with the birthday of the United States, suggesting that the United States collectively is very much at a prominent turning point regarding its own unique realization of its greatest potential. Now, our full moon lunar eclipse is in the sign of Capricorn, and in the chart that we cast for the United States, that places the moon at the highest point of the chart. So what I suggest for us to recognize on a personal level, that this full moon specifically can very much be a culmination, a coming together, a time of fruition of our long-term goals. I was talking about Saturn transiting Capricorn, solidifying the understanding of our career path, purpose, long-term goals. This full moon very much can be a time of, provided that we have set in motion and properly fortified the experience so that we may receive the rewards of the long-term goals at this full moon lunar eclipse. As I said, it's the highest point in the chart. It's a time for us individually to rise to prominence, to come into our own, to be very accountable and responsible of all that we set in motion energetically. It's another opportunity to recognize that we are the masters of our destiny. We have the Jupiter-Pluto alignment that I've been talking about for quite some time now, which in and of itself, it's an opportunity to really recognize that we are the masters of our destiny, that we have the ability to create and to bring to form all that we desire. And we always emphasize all that we create, encode it with the intention of love. Create all things from a place of love. You see, whenever we endeavor towards creating anything from a place of love, it not only brings us what we may desire for ourselves, but it serves a greater purpose for the highest good of all concerned. You see, I always emphasize for us to really enjoy and embrace all that brings us joy, because when we are in a place of joy within ourselves, that's what we radiate out to the world. When we are experiencing a profession that we fully love, that we truly enjoy, we not only allow ourselves to really embrace many blessings, we generate those blessings, we radiate those blessings to many, to all of us, to every one of us that we encounter, because it creates that ripple effect. Being in a place of joy and allowing yourself to really experience a profession that you really love, that allows you to really experience joy, that's just what you radiate to the rest of the world. And all of this very much can come together for many of us, even though it may not necessarily seem like that right now out in the world. Pay no attention to the distractions and the derailments which may be taking place. Yes, we are being offered opportunities to be aware of what is unfolding in the outside world from the bigger picture, and to see all of that with great clarity. Remember, we need to be peaceful within ourselves. Many shifts are taking place right now, especially as we move through these next few weeks. As I said, this lunar eclipse is prominent for us, specifically here in the United States, because it does connect with the birthday of the United States. Whenever we have a monumental event occurring on our birthday, like a full moon, a new moon, more so a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse, the coming year for us will be very significant regarding our own personal growth and evolution. I've said many times, whatever astrologically comes together at the time of our birthday, that energy remains with us for a long period of time. That energy remains with us throughout the year. The moment that the sun returns to the exact position it was at the time of our birth, that begins our solar year. And as I said, that energy remains with us throughout the year. We certainly are in the times of, as I've said quite often, the apocalypse, revelations. However, that does not suggest doom, gloom, and destruction. Revelations, apocalypse means to reveal. We are awakening to the greatest potential that we have within ourselves, as well as within our country and our world. There are many blessings to be received, provided that we don't approach it all with fear. I also created a video entitled Fear Which Interferes, to touch upon a little bit more and inspire you to release any fears. We are very much at times of receiving many blessings. Remember, where energy goes, where our attention goes, energy flows. Forgive me for stumbling on my words a little bit there. Whatever it is that we are focusing on, that's what we're going to reinforce. Yes, let's be discerningly aware of what is unfolding in the world. Let's also direct our attention towards the many blessings at hand. So, that's enough about the full moon. We have our next new moon on July 20th, but I also touch upon the balsamic moon phase, which begins on July 16th at 4:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Remember, the balsamic moon phase is an opportunity to prepare for the next lunar cycle. It's a time to clear, cleanse, purge, allow ourselves to be aware of what we'd like to set in motion, what seeds that we would like to plant at the time of the next new moon. That is done during the balsamic moon phase. As I said, it begins on July 16th at 4:21 p.m. And that prepares us. It's an auspicious opportunity to prepare for the next lunar cycle. And our next new moon will be on July 20th at 1:33 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Now, Our last new moon, which was on June 21st, was at the 0 degree point of Cancer. Our next new moon in July, on July 20th, is at about almost 28.5 degrees of Cancer. It's also in the sign of Cancer. However, it's at the very late degree stages of Cancer. This is an opportunity for us to acclimate all that was set in motion at the time of the June 21st solar eclipse. Forgive me, I had to think a minute there. I've got so much going on in my head astrologically. This new moon, it's more of an acclimation period for all that was really set in motion at the time of the June 21st eclipse. And because it's at the late degrees of Cancer, it's also one more opportunity to become very clear with what may not necessarily be in alignment at that same vibratory frequency with our intentions that we set in motion on June 21st, on that new moon. Remember, whatever it is that we set in motion through intentions, it does have a vibrational frequency. And I always suggest to set all intentions and code all intentions from a place of love. Love is a very high vibrational frequency. And whenever we refer to high vibrations, low vibrations, it's not a judgment meaning bad or good, right or wrong. It's just a different elevational, it's just a different vibratory frequency. And I always use the example, just like the colors of the rainbow have different vibrational frequency. Red is a lower vibration compared to violet, which it's a high vibration. It's not bad or good, right or wrong, just a different frequency. So at this new moon, allow yourself to acclimate to all that you have set in motion. Allow yourself to lovingly receive all that is necessary for you to continue on your journey, certainly from a place of love, but also receiving all that you desire to really enjoy this human experience. And again, it doesn't mean that we're not without challenges. Those challenges, many of which we have chosen before coming into this embodiment, serve a greater purpose. They're opportunities to grow, to fortify our creativity. Change always fortifies creative growth. If we are stagnant, if we are in the same place for long periods of time, we're not going to tap into our greatest creative potential, which I'm actually going to touch upon next. And also, too, the sign of Cancer. Cancer, because it's ruled by the moon, the element of the moon, connects certainly with emotions, but it also connects with that which we are, that which contains the greatest passion, that which we are so very, very much passionate about in our lives. And that passion, I always suggest to recognize that passion does connect with a greater purpose. Also, that passion fuels the fires of creativity. You see, allow yourself to just embrace all of these wonderful blessings about your own personal human potential, which will bring you all that you desire. I'm talking about creativity. I understand that we really, part of the greater purpose of why we are here in this physical form is to remember that we are creative beings. And when we demonstrate ourselves creatively, we connect with divinity. When we connect with divinity, we express ourselves creatively. Now on July 22nd at 4:37 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the sun moves into the sign. It begins to transit the sign, which most represents divinity as well as creativity, the sign of Leo. Just imagine how much energy is generated by the sun. Every one of us has the opportunity to tap into that energy and fuel the fires of creativity. As the sun transits through the sign of Leo, We are offered opportunities to remember that part of us that is very creative, and every one of us has the ability to demonstrate creativity. And whenever I address creativity, I always inspire us to recognize that creativity isn't only limited to art and music, which many times some of us really don't feel we're creative because we're not artistic, we may not be musically inclined. However, creativity is multifaceted, it's multidimensional. Every one of us has the potential to demonstrate great creativity, and as the sun transits the sign of Leo, it's an opportunity to remember that. Also too, I've touched upon many times over the years at this time that we have an opportunity known as the Lion's Gate portal, that actually that portal opens about on the time of July 26th. I believe it is exact, actually yes, it is exact on August 8th, and I believe it remains open for about another week or so after that. And what's significant of that time is that we have the experience here in the northern hemisphere, and it might be so in the southern hemisphere, although I'm not sure about that. However, once again, I seem to always digress. At the moment when the Lion's Gate portal is open, at the moment of sunrise, we have the experience of what is known as the rising of two suns. Our sun Helios rises on the horizon, as well as the great star of Sirius. Both of those elements at the moment of sunrise are rising over the horizon. This is a time of recognizing and receiving abundance. It was at this time when the Nile began to rise, and everything was flooded, not flooded with destruction, but flooded with abundance. I'm keeping this explanation very simple because this video is getting a little bit longer, and I don't want to go too much off on a tangent. But if you desire to understand more about this Lion's Gate portal experience, I do suggest to explore the event on your own and just allow it to communicate and connect with you in whatever form that you desire, whatever may resonate with you regarding that experience. But remember, it is a time for us to connect with great creativity. Also too, the sign of Leo represents love. Leo is ruled by the sun. It's represented in the 5th house sector of the astrological chart. That's the sector of the chart where that is connected with creativity, love affairs, as well as children. All of that is all very much the same, and it's all very much connected with this energy of Leo. There's also something that inspires us to become very, very childlike. Most children, in fact, probably all children, especially up to about 7 years old, they are demonstrating themselves creatively in so many facets. We are very much inspired to become childlike. That's also another opportunity that we can enjoy during the transit of the sun into Leo, becoming very, very childlike, to observe all experiences through the eyes of a child. That innocence is something that has very much been removed from the times that we are in right now. And returning to that innocence, perhaps that's also another opportunity to embrace as the sun transits the sign of Leo, returning to that innocence of being a child, and just observe how perhaps you may have a sense of rebirth. Once again, I'm spiritualist, psychic, astrologer, and medium Sette. I thank you for this opportunity of allowing me to share with you some of these very few insights for the month of July 2020. Remember, as we experience any time frame, we have a multitude of astrological alignments. I touch upon what I feel are the most significant. And remember, we always have to look specifically to how they are applying to our charts to have a better personal understanding of those energies. That for now, until we have the opportunity to meet one-on-one and privately, I'll share with you this information and inspire you on your journey. Don't forget to keep working on yourself. Remain peaceful, remain grounded, remain in the light, always in a place of love, and we will see each other again very soon. Many blessings and namaste.